Hello, welcome to the Three Orcs channel. This is David, and in this video, we're going to cover a new village for the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign, not just the module, the T1 through 4 Temple of Elemental Evil module run directly from the pages, but expanding the campaign world around the area of Nold and Hamlet, which includes the Gnarly Forest, the Cron Hills, the Wild Coast, the Viscounty of Verbabank, Divers, all the way down to Selene, the fake kingdom of the elves. Now, I flussed out most of the villages in the area. I'm up to like 14 villages now, and most of those villages were derived from the Living Greyhawk series, which is made back in the 2000s. And that timeline that they were running that campaign was in the year 592 Common Year up to 599. But those NPCs, those organizations and villages still existed no matter what timeline you run your campaign in. So when Gary Gygax originally wrote the Temple of Elemental Evil, he had it all filled out, but he sent his notes to Frank Mencher, and he only included 4 locations in Nold, and he expected in the DM notes that the Dungeon Master should flush out the rest of the village and create more outposts out there, much like the Moat House. So the Moat House was run by Lareth from the Greater Temple. Now, the Fire, Earth, Air, and Water temples, they had outposts out there too, raiding, because the Temple of Elemental Evil is heavily recruiting and bringing in a lot of supplies. The Supreme Commander, Hedrick, he's the mouth of Uis, was sent by Uis to make the second rising of the Temple of Elemental Evil happen, so they can divert the attention of the Kingdoms of Good from the north to Uis' activities before the Greyhawk Wars. So he wanted misdirection, and also he wanted to destabilize the region politically in the Viscounty, Ferrandi, Valuna, Wild Coast, the Elves of the Gnarly, the Druids, the Rangers, and the Selene to the south. And to do that, he actually created his agents are out there causing a lot of disturbances politically and also with heavy raiding. And he's leveraging bandits, brigands, and pirates to escalate their raids on the merchant roads and the rivers. And they're raiding, these wagons and these ships and bringing back the loot and prisoners back to the Temple of Elemental Evil. But they're doing it secretively, undercover. They're using a secret tunnel to get into the dungeon. And they're using a lot of agents out there to help them do this. Because Commander Hedrick had #1 rule for all his agents and leadership is to not cause any attention to be diverted towards Nold. Keep all attention away from Nold, and everybody believes it's just a village of scum and villainy, and it's a local problem. And they do have a constable, and maybe you can hire some deputies and take care of it. So there's no reason why the Circle of 8 would have to show up or anything like that, or some army march upon the town, because there's no reason to suspect there's a second uprising of the Temple of Elemental Evil after the first rising was put down after the Battle of Emerald Meadows 7 years ago. So when I run my campaign, I start my players at the city of Verbabank with the Noble Ambitions module from Living Greyhawk, and I rewrote that for this campaign and this campaign timeline. Other Dungeon Masters start their campaign in Divers, others the Wild Coast, some just the traditional way just outside of Hamlet, others from Ferrandi and Valuna. So this campaign, this project is so large, it's so encompassing in the area that's fully flussed out, just like Hamlet, that the Dungeon Master can run his players anywhere. And also, all these organizations, NPCs and towns and cities and shops, I usually write a lot of plot hooks. And a lot of these activities, these quests that are in this campaign are all connected or collaborating with the Temple of Elemental Evil agents. So it's like peeling back the layers of an onion to get the players to do this investigation to find out who's behind all this rise of banditry and brigands and pirates. And eventually, hopefully by 5th level, it gets them to Nold. But we want to keep them away from Nold before then, because they'll be too low level and it'll end badly for them. There's some serious heavy hitters in Nold, and they'll take advantage of any players that show up. And one of the #1 rules of Supreme Commander Hedrick is that any agents of good that come to Nold need to be misdirected. You can't just gank them in the streets. You can't take them out, because that'll cause too much attention, like something's going on. So what they want to do is they want to divert the attention, and all the different temples are against each other, like in the module. You can leverage the different factions against each other to take advantage of that. Well, these temple agents out there in Nold and all the NPCs that work and collaborate with them in Nold, that's what they're going to do. They're going to misdirect the players out of Nob to these other bases. They're enemy faction bases, like the Earth Temple Ramog people over at Waterside. They're going to probably divert anybody asking questions to the Air Cult Temple in the tower out in the Cron Hills, or the Water Temple along the river. Get them out of Nob. And then they'll probably tip them off too. The adventurers are coming, take care of them. So basically, it's a good way to get rid of them. Once the players are outside of Nob, it doesn't matter what happens to them. Nobody cares, because fingers will not be pointed towards Nob, and that's how Hadrick wants it, until they're ready to actually cause a lot of trouble. He's doing it smart this time. So when I run my campaign, I start in the city of Verbabank. The city of Verbabank is also done. It's fully flushed out and available on World Anvil. World Anvil is a fan content website for everybody at their table, so you can use it to run your campaign. All the modules I packaged together sell on the Dungeon Masters Guild. That falls under their IP, which is Wizards of the Coast. They take 50%. I'm allowed to use anything that's IP from Wizards of the Coast and package it and sell it as a module or a source book. And I've done that. I have Shir Nob done, Ostverk, on the leadership of the Temple of Elemental Evil, and the Village of Nob is all for sale in DM's Guild. Now, the number one reason why I even made these is because a lot of Dungeon Masters, they want to be able to print something up. And printing from the pages of World Anvil is almost impossible. A simple article will take 20 pages of print out, and the formatting will be horrible. And if you try to export it as a PDF, you lose all formatting, and it's just not usable at the table. So what I do is I painstakingly reformat and rewrite and add more artwork, these tight, concise modules that you can print up. And I put them out in DM's Guild so you guys can get them if you want. Also, it helps support this project too. I was thinking about doing the City of Verpunk next, but one of the Dungeon Masters in the Three Orcs Discord channel requested that I finish Noble Ambitions, the quest line. So I interviewed the author of Noble Ambitions, and he gave me express permission to rewrite his module and add it to the campaign. And also, I could actually package it for the Dungeon Masters Guild too. He gave me that permission. Right now, I'm writing it in the fan content version of World Anvil for you guys to use. And I got as far as the dungeon. So in my campaign, after they get done with the Ancient Soul dungeon in the Gnarly Forest, they'll get them to second level, and then they can start heading towards Hamlet. So that way, when they get to the Moat House, they'll be at least second level. It's better than the alternative. And also, when you get to Hamlet, there's other side quests too, obviously, that I created another module for that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've done so far, and I'm going to show you this village. This video is about a village I created. So now we have another village part of this campaign, and that's what this video is going to be, a review of that village. So let's go ahead and take a look at the campaign website. So this is the splash screen of World Anvil for the Verbabank Campaign Guide 576 Common Year, which is the default timeline by Gary Gygax in the World of Greyhawk box set. The Temple of Elemental Evil timeline in the module states those events happened in 579 Common Year, 3 years later. So what I say is all those activities started with Hadrick arriving on the scene 3 years ago in 576. And in the last 3 years, that's where that build of banditry, pirates, and brigands have been going on. And people are noticing. So that's how we get around that. If you scroll down on my front page, you'll get to an interactive map. And you can scroll around and click on any of these towns that are done. Just like Hamlet, they're fully keyed, every shop, every NPC, every organization, and they're fully linked together so you can use them at the table. And I write them in a bullet point format so they're easy to reference. On the bottom left-hand corner is the table of contents, and on the right is the maps. Most of the maps, not all the maps. For some reason, I can't get more maps on there. Maybe I reached my limit. But they're embedded in the articles, so you can get them that way. So I'm going to go to Verbabank Atlas, go to Verbabank Viscounty, Anshan is the one I created. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And we're going to go to the actual article of Anshan. So that's what it looks like walking into Anshan across the bridge. So let's look at the map real quick. This map right here is the Viscounty of Verbabank map. It's the complete borders of the Viscounty, and every hex is 3 miles, which is a league. And as far east I could get on this Viscounty map is halfway through the Gnarly Forest. That's why you don't see the Wild Coast on here. I'll have to make another map for that later. These maps are better. They're based on Anna Meyer's maps, but they're better use case for this campaign because you can zoom in more. Her maps, you can't zoom in as much. And there's a lot of activity happening in this campaign. But I also made another map besides this one. This is the Eastern Viscounty map. Every hex is 1 mile. It's even more zoomed in. I really needed that to run my campaign because my characters start in City of Verbabank right here. And there's like the first 6 sessions are there in that village before they leave. And then they make their way down Merchant's Way. Then they get through Penwick. And they finally arrive at Asbury Manor and spend the night. And that's where they get the rest of the quest, the clues. The mad priest Areo that has this prophecy that he keeps repeating over and over again. He was captured on the way to, as a dignitary, a diplomat to Selene to visit Queen Yolanda to give her the gift of Rao and to hopefully get her borders opened up, because the Selene has closed their borders, and that's a big win for Uis. He's trying to destabilize the region, and if they can cut off ties to Selene, that's a big win. It's a huge loss for the forces of good, and he wants to keep it that way. So they're going to be fighting against this ever happening. Anyway, he was captured and taken by the orcs and brought here. So on the way, let me get the DM view here, Dungeon Master only, so we can see the dungeon here. So the dungeon popped up, as you can see. That's where the dungeon is, and each hex is a mile. So it's, oops, sorry, let me scroll back. From Osbury Manor, Osbury, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8 miles to Anshan. So by the time they get to Anshan, it'll be late afternoon probably. Most likely they don't have horses. They'll probably spend the night, because it'll be really suicidal to try, at first level, to try to cross the Fens of Tor at nighttime and then camp in the middle of the night. And they have to cross the river too. And they have to get into the Gnarly Forest and get to the dungeon. And it was something I created based on one of the living. Anshan is actual module referenced in one of the Living Greyhawk modules for another quest line. Lord Millennius's men blames a knight commander, captain commander there of the Mounted Border way station there of something that he didn't do. And it's something that Lord Millennius is kind of behind. And Lord Millennius is trying to take over the lands of House Osbury to the south. That happened in the Living Greyhawk series later on in the campaign. In fact, let me show you the barony borders. There we go. See that orange, yellow line right there is the barony border of House Osbury. If I go north, this more yellow line also is the barony border. That is the barony border of Lord Millennius. In the later campaign in Living Greyhawk, this is all one domain by Lord Millennius, because he's trying to marry into House Osbury. Anyway, this is before all that happened. Those are anything in Living Greyhawk is possible future events. The Greyhawk Wars is a possible future event. It's all happened before that. We're running the original T1 through 4 Temple of Elemental Evil module. You gotta remember that. So anything after that is semi-canonical, and I try to stick to it as much as I can. But I do have to make some changes to fit this timeline, to fit this campaign, because some of those things haven't happened yet, and some locations don't even exist yet. All right, so I had to make Anshan, and this is definitely not in Anna Meyer's maps, and it's not referenced anywhere else except that module. And I thought it was a good idea to have a small thorpe, swamp side thorpe, where they harvest stuff out of the swamp there. It's the last place you can go before you start crossing that swamp. And the old trail that crosses the swamp is unused. It's really hard to follow. So you're going to need a ranger or a druid to help you cross without getting lost. If I scroll to the right, see Twilight Falls far to the east. That is the border of the Viscounty of Erbebank. So all this that you see on the map is part of the Viscounty of Erbebank. It's their domain. Something to think about. The orc clan right here, these orcs right here, they hang out in the Fens of Tor. Another Living Greyhawk member actually created that orc clan for the campaign back a long time ago. And I went ahead and added it with a clan article and a location article, everything you need to know about that clan. They've taken over the temple ruins, and they're trying to, it's an expedition, a war band, a lot of orcs, and the leader is a werewolf. So it's really tough. And you gotta remember, the players are first level. So the mission for the players is to get into this temple, recover the lost jewels, treasures of House Osbury that was taken during the Battle of Emerald Meadows. And House Osbury is a poor holding. They're not doing well. They don't even have a smithy. And she's putting it together with the skin of her teeth. She's really trying hard. She's also the most eligible bachelorette in the kingdom. That's a whole nother subject. So anyway, the players are hired by her to recover her lost treasures. So if they can get into this temple and recover those treasures without getting slaughtered. My last group actually killed the whole entire tribe. They weren't supposed to, but you know how players are. They just wanted to kill everything. But in that campaign, that tribe didn't exist. I was using the Blackthorn tribe. Well, this tribe has a werewolf leader, so it changes things a little bit. Anyway, so the players, I think, that Thorpe is a good idea to stop on the way to the dungeon before they cross the soul, place to spend the night, and get rumors and hire potential retainers, recruits, henchmen, whatever you want to call them. To fill the need of the player group, to fill them out, to help them accomplish this mission, because some groups aren't quite balanced. They might be missing a cleric or a thief or a ranger or something. So let's go ahead and take a look at Anshan. And as all my articles are, it has an interactive map of the village on the right. You click on any of these buildings, and it'll pop up their articles. But on the left is flavor text of approaching Thorp, the Thorp, and another flavor text crossing the bridge, what you notice when you get to the town, and then DM notes of what this place is all about. So when you first approach the Thorp, the ad living, you see there's a mill, and there's a boy, stick spear, watching the frogs. He's watching the players. On the north side is the edge of town. Cottages lean and sink into the marsh. The roofs, bad memory, being swallowed. There's a stone church of St. Cuthbert. The bridge is old, and it says one at a time on the sign there because it's rickety. So it's a chance it might break underneath the players. Merchants do come to this town once in a while, no more than one time a week. So they do get some trade, but not often. So when the trade does happen, it's a big deal. So the tone is sodden, there's thin smiles. So it's wet and grimy here. It's basically their economy derives from the marsh. Eels and frogs and snapping turtles and hides and leeches and rare herbs and fungi. There's an apothecary here. Authority. The authority here is Captain Para Roanik. He's the commander of the mounted border station here. The tower is in the middle of construction, just like in the village of Hamlet. So Captain Para has his own link too. As you can see, it's linkable. And you can scroll through it here to learn everything you want about him with dialogue. I write a lot of dialogue for my characters to help you roleplay them. Usually I sprinkle rumors into it to help bring the campaign to life and get the players more engaged in what's really going on elsewhere besides what's right in front of their nose. So if you click on it, it'll bring up his full article. I usually right-click on it and click open it in another tab. So you have all these tabs open. Anyway, getting there, approaching from the west, the streams, the bridge, the roads, a bunch of DM notes. The defenses here. All right, so the first notable location is the Mirewatch House. The original noble of this town was abandoned a long time ago, after the Battle of Emerald Meadows. It's been abandoned. And so the last living remnant of that house, noble person, he's a drunkard, and he's always in the tavern drinking drunk. And he's trying to sell the place. So that's another side quest for the players. Maybe they'll buy it. Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. And then there's a mill here, and it's a working mill. And that mill has a lot to do with that quest I was talking about from Living Greyhawk. And the guy is secretly, the theme behind that entire quest, the captain's secretly in love with his daughter. And that's the cause of the problem, like always. And then there's a church of St. Cuthbert, and that's Waldere. He's a drunk. He's always in the tavern drinking. And so he'll actually sell a blessing for exchange for a mug of ale. Then there's the tavern itself. It's a tavern and an inn. And then you have the mounted border station and the swine pits. I decided to create like a pig farm, whatever you want to call it. They call it the swine pits. So a lot of pork is raised here and sold. And then finally, I created a small place called Old Aggie's. That's the herbalist. And she harvests this rare stuff from the swamps. An old lady, she's a witch. I added some hooks, for DM hooks. If you want to continue to bring this location to life, I always add these plot hooks to help you with that. And I also drop in some mini encounters here, like the Marsh Harvest Brawl, or Leech Barrel Spill, or Quiet on the Ports, things that help you bring it to life. Okay, I also added 5e morsels of rules to help 5e DMs run their game. I know that you guys appreciate that kind of stuff. The DC 12 and DC 15 and stuff like that. Secrets, rumors. So what's true? These are true secrets. There's 4 of them. Also, that person, that module I was referencing earlier from Living Greyhawk? Well, this is where that's from. Sir Drenzel is in love to be married to Sherina. So that's going on. And I put an outline of that story quest here to help you get familiar with that if you ever run that module. You can't get them. They were never sold. They're never made available public. They were only handed out in person to dungeon masters running that session at that convention at that time. And each state was responsible for different regions. Verpabonk was Illinois. So all the Dungeon Masters from Illinois in the 2000s got copies of these modules to run at the conventions. It's the only way you could get them. The author could actually give them away if you wanted to, but you can't get them anywhere else. And I can't give them to you either because they're not mine to give. But that's why I try to get them on my channel to interview them and see if I can get permission to use it in this material. So speaking of which, all the locations and NPCs and organizations that all these modules refer to are in this campaign. So you can, if you had the module, you can run it because all these locations and NPCs are there. And also they reference stuff from the module too, like rumors and things like that, things that they're up to. So it's easily integrated. So you can actually run that module perfectly well with this World Anvil, because the World Anvil, this Verpabonk Campaign Guide 576 Common Year project is designed with that in mind. Another link to the map. We'll get to the map in a second. On the right is notable people. So there's the Captain Para. There's the St. Cuthbert Cleric, the curate. The Bog Barrel, that's the owner. And Harl. So I only make NPCs separate articles if they're a really important NPC. The cleric, I didn't make a separate article, I don't think. I don't remember. Let's find out real quick. Let's see. His name is Ailred. I might have made it and forgot to link it. Let's see. No. I made that stuff. Those, if you, whatever you type in here, it'll pull up articles, whatever's related to that word. That's kind of a little trick to learn about this website. Oops, I accidentally clicked on her. We'll get to her in a minute. Let's go back. Okay, so anyway, those are the people. And on the right-hand side is another list of links to the locations in the village, like another table of contents. The owning organization at this time is House Osbury, and it's related to this plot. This plot right here, NA09, is the Noble Ambitions quest I've been writing. I'm up to number 12 plus the dungeon plus this village. And as I've created more of a breakdown of the folk here, you know, they're different categories of these NPCs to help you bring it to life. It's called Forged Studios. And I don't use it as much as I used to because I create my own artwork now. But I like that piece, so I left it there. And, you know, I won't add that to the DM's Guild module version. Okay, so now let's go to the first location. So Mirewatch House. The Mirewatch. All the artwork is mine here. So it's an abandoned noble seat. It's a slumped manor at the marsh's lip, and they learn to breathe. Actually, before we go farther, I'm sorry, let's look at the map. So the map is interactive, but if you want to look at the full map, you can click on Open Full Size right here. Well, I'm going to right-click on it and open it up in a new tab. There we go. Yeah, I think you can navigate this way too. You know, just have the map open, and whatever you put your cursor over it, and it'll pop it up, and you click it, it'll take you to that article. So the Mirewatch is here, and it's location number 1. So on the left is Osbury March Road that leads to House Osbury and Penwick, as you can see. These are the map objects I used to create this map. I created a lot of these objects myself. I created them from scratch. And I also used objects from Kirora and Tom Kartos. And I decided to put a stream here. This is just a stream. And it's an offshoot from the river. And as you can see, this is on the edge of the marsh, the swamp. And the swamp is overtaking the Thorp. So if you look closer, you see that a lot of these buildings have been taken over. They're sinking into the swamp, especially if you look at the north side. See that? Yeah, I created all these. It's pretty cool. I didn't create this building, number 3, but I created the other ones, though. So that's the mounted borderer station. The tower's under construction, and there's tents out front for the mounted borderers, the patrols. And the patrols go north and south up this trail, this marsh trail that skirts the edge of the Fens of Thorp, up, back, and forth, as you can see. This trail going off to the east is the one that's supposed to cross the Fens of Thorp to that Emerald Run. And then finally, there's supposed to be a bridge there, but that bridge was taken down like at the beginning of the century at Common Year 1 after a big war with these lizard men. And also the Sul Empire, you know, it wasn't happening at that time. So that bridge got taken down. It's not there. So the players might be surprised when they get there that it's not a hole that's to swim across or build a raft or something. But anyway, that's the trail that leads to the swamp, and it's not all there. It's missing in a lot of places. You'll lose your way easily in the swamp. And you can't really see the sky that much because it's hazy, it's foggy here, and the trees. So it's hard to see where the sun is exactly at all times. And so it's hard to tell unless you're a ranger or a druid, it's hard to tell your direction. So it's a random roll thing. It's a skill check, right? So let's go ahead and look at the first Mirewatch here. There we go. So Mirewatch is an abandoned noble house. So I have flavor text, what it looks like here. It looks sad. The history. So it's built generation ago as a polite retreat for a minor Osbury holding. Floods and bad harvest and the marsh turning means it emptied it. Servants left first, then the steward, then everyone but Harl. So Harl's the person. I did not create a separate article for Harl. During the spring vigil, the church beline snapped. Silence fell over the manor mid-prayer. Something old in the reeds kept that silence, and it stayed there in that building. So something's there. The description of the grounds and the exterior, the interior overview, and the keyed rooms. So this is a loose key to your role play with. It's not exacting, but I made a key for you of the different rooms. It's good at, it has some stuff in there. So it's kind of cool. I also made the upper floor and then the cellar. So what's in the cellar? There's a crawl space. There's leeches, a rusted floodgate, a hidden box. Keep them going. Social play. So Harl, Harry, Anshan, I spelled that wrong, Anshan. He's at the Bog Barrel, the tavern. He will sell a letter of transfer for the price of ale and bravado. Morning after, he claims he never sold it. If shown the signet, he sobs with relief or fury. Your call as a dungeon master. Then either signs again soberly, he's sober, or flees the tavern to face the house. He has to go face the house like it's a person. This is a comment about the St. Cuthbert Waldere. He will bless rattle strings, granting +2 against fear versus an expedition into that house. Old Aggie, the marsh witch, she knows a reed song. So that has an effect on 2 of those rooms. Captain Roanik, he recognizes the patent, the paperwork, but will witness transfer if asked, and expects the new holder to host scouts during the storm. Mounted borderer scouts. I put a bunch of hooks and mini scenes in here, things that could be hooked to this location to make it fun and interesting. If you find any of these cool, you could use them. If the players restore Mirewatch, I put some prices here. They're just rough guidelines, however you run your campaign when it comes to prices. So it's a lot of interesting things here to help you figure that out. So who actually owns what? So that was a question about, the Middle Ages and law. Well, basically, this is a fief. The soil and the rights is a fief. Within your setup, Anshan sits on the marches of House Osbury. The Viscount of Furbank holds ultimate lordship. Lady Eleanor Osbury holds it in fee for the Viscount. Mirewatch House and the Meadows, part of Osbury's domain, formerly entrusted to the Ashford family as life tenancy and stewardship, now effectively reverted due to a failure of service and abandonment. So he really doesn't own it? Okay, this is what Harl's paper really is. Harl's letter, a quit claim of occupancy. It grants no feudal rights. It can help prove possession, but needs a lord charter to become lawful. That means Lady Eleanor. Treat it as a hook. Treat this as a plot hook. Evidence that the players can carry this proper court, not the deed. So, who can lawfully grant this place? Again, a minor regent, like Lady Eleanor can do this herself, or a liege over Osbury lands. Major elevation, so recognizing the true manor, collecting rents, holding court, renaming the Thorpe, requires letters and patent from the Viscount. Gameable legalization paths. This is in case you want to head down that road and you want details, because players always ask weird questions and you want to have the facts at your fingertips just in case. So I saved you a lot of time. So the snapshot of the Dungeon Master here for the Dungeon Master, everything about this place, the treasures here. And there's a random D6 house that breathes table. Then bring the house to life. It's kind of haunted. And the Fen Whisperers. So you can use this for a lot of good reasons here. There's a lot of good examples of what you could do with it and their tactics and how to banish them, like a continuous hymn or a chant or a drip. That's what I was referring to earlier. So this is pretty cool. I think that's really cool location for this village. Okay, the next one is Alston's Mill. So Alston, that's the mill there. It's a stone-based, timber-topped mill, flavor text. I should have outlined this because you read that out loud to the players. Flavor text of what it looks like when they get there. So it describes the mill, the layout, inside, outside, upstairs, in case you need to know all this information when you're running your game. Okay, the people here. So there's the owner, the father, and he's got some dialogue and personalities to help you bring him to life when you're role-playing him. Sherina, same thing. Everything you want to know about her. Say it once, I'll remember. Say it twice, I'll charge you for wasting ink. So she's pretty cool. She's only 17 years old. Then there's the younger kids right here. Anyway, there's also plot hooks and micro scenes that you can use in the campaign to bring it to life. And one of the things that they have is a map to cross the Fens of Thorp, the bridge. So I want to point something out about this map. This map is really old. This map was drawn like before the first Common Year, while that bridge was still there. So that will probably surprise the players. Encounters at the mill. If something happened, like it's attacked by sturges or something, that'd be fun. All the secrets there. So I added more things about the Fen Whispers. Here's some more information for the Dungeon Master to use, and I added that quest again from the Living Greyhawk module I referred to earlier. Top right-hand corner is more dialogue from the mill owner. I refer references here on the right, including the original authors. So that way you can, if you want to run this module, you know what it's called at least. This is a one-glance summary of the place, goods and services and things like that. Also, services and prices, in case you need to know the prices for whatever they're doing there. That might become useful, you don't know. Especially if the players decide to fix up that mansion for some reason. They might want to know what the mill is capable of and what it costs. So there's the owner, and there's the daughter. She's grumpy. Battle map features, a lot of 5e stuff here, and rewards for doing stuff. Maybe you can give story awards or something if you can accomplish these things. So that's a cool location. All right, so the next place is number 3, and that's the Church of the Cudgel. Now this church, as you can see, it's kind of beat down, worn out. Full description check. Square, sturdy stone, the best built thing in Anshan, and its sermon is a wall. So that means nobody's conducting a sermon there. What this little church believes in and enforces. So there's tenants in the wall carved inside the ports, like the Church of St. Cuthbert and Hamlet, those tenants that you read on the wall, stuff like that. Here. Orders in miniature. There's 3 orders. The practical billets, talks about the doctrine of the St. Cuthbert faith. And I didn't put a link here for that either. I actually wrote an organizational article for St. Cuthbert. So there's St. Cuthbert the God. That's an article for a god. Then there's another article for the organization, the Church of St. Cuthbert. I did this for almost every faith in this campaign. Like Pelor and Heronius, they all have their own organizational articles for the churches, not just for the god. Also, all the gods, I created all new artwork for the characters and also the holy symbols. The reason I did that is some of it was lacking, some of it's cool. A lot of the gods were missing holy symbols completely. So I went through all of them and created all of them. I nailed it pretty good on most of them. If you guys find one lacking, let me know and I'll try again. Okay, so anyway, chain of command and all that stuff. So basically, he ultimately answers to Bishop Hoffren, the bishop in St. Cuthbert, which is the #1 recognized church organization in the Viscounty of Verberbach. He's a close personal friend and confidant and advisor to the Viscount himself. He's the #1 position of all the churches in Viscounty. much to the concern of the other faiths in the Viscounty. Also, there's the Old Faith here too. And I actually did put on the map, if you can look for it. You can follow along. This is open, free to use website, public facing. You just go here and look around and look at the map. You'll see that there's an Old Faith altar on the south side of the town. The description of the building and the grounds around it. Okay, and here's Waldere. So, he's not the happiest or well-off priest of St. Cuthbert by far. He's got a whole history and everything, personality. And he's really interesting, actually. So he does things for the party. He just has his own limitations. Law is the floor, grace is the roof. I nailed down the floor first. Things like that. So he's pretty interesting. He's got the services and costs, the way he does, and how the Paris fits the big machine here. So he talks about, I talk about Bishop Hoffren's shadow, guards both soul and order with his sermons. With the borderers, he helps them. He talks about different faiths and things like that. Because you never know when a player might be like a cleric or a paladin of another faith. So it'd be good to know about Trithrin and the Old Faith and things like that. Okay, 5e mechanics again, related to other things happening in the village, and more hooks, plot hooks that you could use for this character and this location. And if the party wins him back from the bottle, that means they get him to stop being a drunk and hang out at the tavern all the time. This is what he does. He stabilizes. He does his sermons. His sermons are shortened. Hammering starts at dawn. Bench legs get planed. Paris gains a weekly blessing rattle string for the Mirewatch and a letter of Bishop Hoffren endorsing the player character's custody petition. If they fail him, he hardens. Aid requires heavier vows or fines. The borderers become default shield. Rumors say that the Cudgel's patience here is thinning. So he becomes less cooperative, basically what that means. Top right-hand corner is a summary at a glance what this place is all about. There's the stat block. He's a 3rd level cleric of St. Cuthbert. Spells and everything, this is a 5e stat block. And some more DM notes in the bottom right-hand corner to help you run him. So that's a pretty cool location. It's going to be a lot of fun to run him. The next location is the Bog Barrel. So this is a inn and tavern. That's what it looks like. So flavor text, what it looks like. I read aloud as you first get there, and then when you walk in. And then I have started off a dialogue with the barkeep to get it going. So there's a layout of what the place looks like. Door and the mud mat. There's so much mud in this town. He has a mud mat at the front, so you can scrape your feet, all the mud off your boots. Stairs, upstairs, kitchen, cellar. Everything you need to know about the owner here. His services and prices, all listed here too. Frontier rates. Encounters, the tavern brawl, a whisper sign, culvert intruder like a rat. The cellar culvert, smuggler's hole, things that you can bring to life if you want, like bring in Bara the Netter. Secrets and tells. Room 3 has a wet bed. His lockbox. Harl's letter, talks about that letter again. Using this in play, some Dungeon Master tips on how to run this in your campaign. Quick combat features, like flipping the table, the slop bucket, or the hearth pot. 1d4 damage of fire damage. Discussion. So I decided to add some dialogue to this. So when the players first get there, I have a discussion happening at the bar between the cleric of Farlong and an off-duty soldier. And they're discussing something for the players to overhear. So I wrote a whole bunch of dialogue based on rumors about this place and their viewpoint, their opinion. So this really helps bring this, this location to life. I also wrote flavor description, flavor text of what the rooms look like, what it's like there, and also what they could find. So that's interesting too. What it smells like and what it looks like. The summary, that's the owner. That's him again, his manners and lines he uses. There's Harl again. I'll sell you Mirewatch for the price of your next round. Deed? Pa, I've got a letter. I'll sell it to you. Okay, there's a picture of inside the tavern and the regulars. So I made a list of the regulars here. So a lot of them have links because they have their own articles and some don't. So here, he's a human. He's a cleric of Farlong. I was going to make a separate article for him, but I haven't got around to it. I probably should. So this is a possible NPC that add to your group if you need one, like a cleric of Farlong. He could help you cross. He could help the players cross the Fens of Tor. His god is the god of travel and wandering. He's got some abilities, some skills, and some spells that come in very useful. There's the cleric and his own link. Marget, she's off-duty soldier. She's cool. She doesn't have her own article, though. Elizara is a halfling merchant. This person is really important. So Elizara, she's a Viscount agent, and she's here disguised as a human, middle-aged human merchant. And her mission is to go scout out that lizardmen village in the swamp. So let's go ahead and take a look at the swamp real quick. Let's look at this map. So there's Anshan. There's Anshan. And, why does it do that? Oh, because I had the border on, that's why. Okay, I got rid of the border. There's Anshan. And then Vassal Tor is the name of the lizard folk village in the Fens of Tor. And basically the pirates are trading with them. And the pirates are actually collaborating with the water temple, Belsornik, Canyon. So that's where they're getting their rare fungi and mushrooms to make the poisons that they use to get them into the Temple of Elemental Evil. So this is their supply source. And they're trading these lizardmen with steel weapons. The lizardmen don't have access to that. So they prize those greatly. And not a good thing to equip them with that, because they'll encourage the lizardmen to raid into the Viscounty. I mean, this is plump farmlands. The breadbasket and heart of the Viscounty, it's lush with farmlands. And so the lizardmen and the orcs in the area raid regularly. That's why, hence, the Mounted Borderers way station is there to stop this from happening. And also House Osbury is responsible for that too with her men, but she has limited manpower. She's not a strong holding. They only have enough men to really defend the manor and the towns. All right, so Zara, let's go back to her again. Let's go ahead and look at her. So that's her. So that's her disguise picture. And so basically, full description, she plays as a merchant. She's got a hand cart. She's got an introduction, dialogue. Good morning on a bad road. I am a licensed peddler, oil hooks, hard biscuit. I keep fair weights. You look like you're making distance, not picnics. Names, if you please, and your business on this stream. Things like that. So who sees at a glance, and her appearance, her roles and motivations, and how to play her, adventure hooks, evidence what she's hunting. So she's trying to find out, and she's got the map too, by the way, in the bottom right-hand corner. The players might encounter her coming and going from that lizardmen village. So that's a hook into the lizardmen thing. And she's an agent of the Viscounty. The players won't know this. And her responsibility is to get down to the bottom of this to find out what's going on. And again, another example of everything ties into the Temple of Elemental Evil eventually. Peeling back the layers of the onion. And this is a way to get the players more and more involved with an encounter like this. If it's done really well with good role playing, the players, this will be unforgettable NPC for the characters to encounter. So she can be encountered at the tavern. This is where she stays. She's got a room upstairs. So back to the tavern. We have an elf here. So he's an interesting elf. He's an elf scholar. So he has a whole background too. He's from Elves of the Gnarly in the middle of the Gnarly Forest. And he's here on a mission. Actually, I wrote a lot of Elven here. I mixed Elven with English. So that way to help you role play him. And I outlined his clan and his family and his mission, his politics, why he's here. He actually talks about that here. He says, I am Anther of Felafel. Clan Felafel is one of the Elves of the Gnarly. I pass through this place of humans. You travel as well. Seek men in cowls. Good. Then we are briefly kin of purpose. So he's basically looking for cultists. And look, there's a lot here, as you can see, and adventure hooks and sample dialogue to help you roleplay him. And there's Clan Felafel there. As you can see on the right-hand side, there's a stat block for him too. So it's possible for the players to recruit him too, add him to their group, because he is a third-level wizard. That's kind of cool. Yeah, and he's got a reason to join them. Just think about it. The Sul Temple, in the edge of the gnarly forest, and those orcs are there collaborating with the Temple of Elemental Evil leadership, yeah, he'd probably be interested in that. It's got something to do with his background and why he's here. Pretty cool. All right, so now we're back to the Bog and Barrel. Now this person, Laili, she's cool. So she's a half-elf grifter. She's a second-level fighter rogue. Light heart, light smile, light step. So she's here as a wild card. She knows all the shady paths, the culverts, and who's buying stolen steel. She's young, travel, worn, thick cloak around one arm, red scarf around her throat. I wonder why. And she's got a reckless grin, eyes that don't match the smile. You would not want to trust her. She's chaotic neutral, obviously. She's ruthless, but not reckless. Violence is a tool used rarely. She hates gallows more than she hates anyone. Her trust is scarce. Childhood abuse taught her to survive first, believe later. So she's got a lot of mannerisms here. Her background. So this is her background in a breath. A river road childhood that went to mean. Workhouse, worst foster family, and a mother whose temper scalded her neck. So her neck has been burned. She ran early, learning quick hands in city markets, and found space to breathe on the marches that law rides thin and news rides slower. She mugs the guilty and careless and spends small. Okay, so she mugs the guilty and the careless and spends very little. Old scars keep her from sleeping deep. What she's done. So lately, when the players talk to her, she is going to mention that she had a lucrative night. She rolled a road thief near the stream bed and took 50 gold pieces and a maker stamped spearhead that she fenced. She hasn't fenced it yet. She suspects a steel to lizardman link and plans to trade the proof to the border or goodwill if things do go sour. She's always got backup plans. Hooks that you can use, for para, guide for conditions, so she can help the players. Clean job only, red scarf. Her social web, all the players that all the characters in town that know anything about her. Okay, and then I got a bunch of secrets for her as well. And her tactics, how she fights, which is interesting. Then, when you first meet her at the inn, I wrote a whole bunch of dialogue of her introducing herself. My favorite line of all times is, "The key is to be light. Light heart, light smile, light step, light touch, light fingers." I love that. So she's going to use that. Now, of course, that will tip off the players that she's a thief, of course. If you're shopping rumors, I've got one in my pocket. So on the right-hand side is what she looks like. There's her stat blocks. She's a second-level fighter rogue. And she's 27 years old, and she's 5'5". So that's an interesting character to join the group. I just wouldn't trust her. But she's not evil. Okay, the next person is Tama and Wint. They worked at the swine pits. Then you got Bara the Netter. That's somebody I referred to earlier. That's Bara. She's an eel woman. She basically harvests eel in the swamps. Then there's the off-duty mounted borderer you might encounter here too. There's the curate, the cleric of St. Cuthbert, drinking, as always, at the tavern. And then there's a menu here. I like to print that up and hand it out to the players while I'm role-playing. I'll use that in conjunction with the descriptions here. So that way I can role-play with the innkeeper. At the bottom right-hand corner, there's D6 rumor and jobs that you can use. And then the players could find this note tucked into the mattress of one of the rooms in the inn. So this is another trigger to get the players more engaged in the campaign. Things like that. I love throwing stuff in like that. Okay, so now the next location is the mounted borderer station. So this one is basically a timber stacks, rope hoists, half-raised platform over stone footing. Boots on patrol, bank half empty, standards tight, law rides from here. So that's all shorthand version of what this place is. So flavor text, dialogue of introducing and challenging the players as they walk up. This is everything you need to know about this post, this location. Who's in charge? Captain Aurora, and he has his own article too. Let's take a look at him real quick. So that's him. Came out really well. And I like that. snapshot of who he is, his look and presence, how he works, his background. He fought at the Battle of Emery Meadows 7 years ago. In case you want to know what Emery Meadows is, there's a link for you. Help you roleplay it. His relationship with Sir Goodwin, Simon Melinius, House Osbury, the cleric, and the mill, because he likes the daughter there. Current intelligent pictures, what he wants from the players. So he does have quests for the players. He wants them to escort, plank work, proof of the lizard men, eyes of any cult symbols, and map markers. Role-playing him, hooks and plot hooks and scenes, and secrets. And then I decided to write an entire article. Then I decided to write an entire dialogue of him talking to the players to really tell them what's up, who he is and what he's for. And then below that is a secret. And this is related to that one quest I was talking about. Top right-hand corner is him. His stat block, 5e. Tactics, lawful neutral. Mounted borderers, the Viscounty. All the relevant links are on the right. His first meeting, when they first meet him, there's a dialogue flavor. When they first meet him, there's flavor text and some introduction dialogue to use to help you roleplay him. Pretty cool. So it's back to the Mounted Borderer station here. All the services, gears, and expectations here. The personnel that you're going to meet. There's a desk sergeant, a quartermaster's lad, 2 lance pairs. They're in rotation. The plot hooks, micro scenes, the law. If steel comes out, what they do about it. A fight. Rewards and relationships with him. Mounted Borderer patrol. So I decided to put together a typical standard Mounted Borderer patrol, because I assume that you're probably going to need that if the players come across a situation that the Mounted Borderers might show up. And so this is what that patrol looks like and how they act, their tactics and their rules. So it helps bring them to life realistically as a military unit. The right-hand side is a whole glance of this article and summary. And then below that is more links and quotes and bounty notice. So there's a bounty and a notice board there. So it's 5 of them to help you. More plot hooks, the bounties they have out there. Okay, so that's that. Now we're going to number 6, the swine pits. The swine pits is basically, as you can imagine, it's got low sheds, deep mud, loud opinions. It's the Thorpe's bacon and boots come here often. So, of course, flavor text, what it looks like, the layout of the place, what's all here. Encounters here, like a panicked boar, lizard man poacher, things like that. Ties to this location, but the other locations that have anything to do with this location. If they earn his trust, what can happen? Quick combat stuff. If a fight happens here, there's some 5e stuff here that you might want to use. And more flavor text and dialogue. Now, if the players introduce themselves to him, this is his dialogue to them, trying to feel them out, who they are, and what they're here for. He gives them questions, and he also gives them rumors, too, to help them get a bearing on this campaign in this location. Top right-hand corner is more dialogue, a summary of this place. That's what he looks like. That's Cornell. This is his personality, and some more dialogue, stuff that he typically would say. His goods and services. So this is what stuff costs from this location. So that could come in useful too. All right, that's one of my jobs as a content creator for this campaign project, is make content useful, for the Dungeon Master to help them run their campaign. Okay, so the last location, number 7, is Old Aggie's, the Marsh Witch. A shop of bottles, bones, and leeches. Truth with a price. She calls Mirewatch the house that hushes. That noble house. So flavor text. What do you want with Old Aggie? The place, the location, the front room, the work table, the loft, the back porch. This is the NPC, her personality and what she looks like. Some dialogue with her. So this is a list of things she can sell. Like a dragon's breath gives you +1 to athletics checks versus cold and mud. It's 15 gold pieces. These gold pieces are just suggestions. You as a dungeon master, depending on how you run your campaign, you might want to adjust the prices for some of these things. Also, not only does he sell things like, potions, but he also sells services too, like curse talk, leeching, sanity by sound, a guide by gesture, plot hooks and micro scenes, things that bring her to life, the things that she wants, interactions with her interactions and attitude towards other people in town, like the cleric of St. Cuthbert. Dealing with the bog lights. If the party earns your trust, what happens? The hazards and secrets about this place too. On the top right-hand corner is a picture of her. She came out fantastic. Wonderful picture, and that's exactly what she looks like. This is a summary of this location. A lot to do with bog lights. She's a 3rd level master herbalist. She's got no spells. So on the bottom is answers. So if the players ask her a bunch of questions, she answers them. These are rumors. So whatever they ask her about, like bog lights, she has an answer for them. This will really help you bring this character to life and give you solid answers for any questions the players might have to help you role play her. It's a big list, like on payments, on healing with the church, the gators, the giant rats, the trolls, the elemental cults, things like that. She's got a lot, the lizard folk, the Sturgis, Mirewatch. So she has a lot of answers here. This is probably the number one place to go besides Para, the captain of the Mounted Warriors, to go to find information before they enter the Fens of Thorp. Okay, so that wraps up this Anshan article that I reviewed, that I worked on for the last couple of weeks. I'm really glad that's done. So this wraps up my video on a new location for the Temple of Elemental Evil open sandbox campaign called the Verbobond Campaign Guide 576 Common Year. This truly makes it an open sandbox where all these towns like Anshan is fully developed like the village of Hamlet. So no matter where the players go, everything is keyed and with plot hooks and dialogue and characters and organizations, and everything's interconnected with activities of the Temple of Elemental Evil to really bring this campaign to life. I hope you like your village, and if there's other villages that you would like created in this campaign, please, that's what the Three Orcs Discord channel is for. You're more than welcome to join the Discord and join the conversation. You can come and collaborate, help create some of these articles, or discuss them, the aims and goals of the project, or where to go next, where to expand it into the Wild Coast or something. Every time I create an article like this and all these other articles I showed you, I always link them on Discord first and let everybody analyze it and critique it. So that way I can edit it right then and there. And that's what I do daily. And then once a week, I'll do a live stream on Sundays at 7 p.m. Pacific, and I do a review of everything I worked on that week. That way it can catch everybody up. And then I usually will talk about what I'm planning to do the next week. Also, I like to have guest dungeon masters on, and I like to talk about their campaign, how they're running their Temple of Elemental Evil campaign, and answer questions about the campaign project. Also, I have a Patreon, and if you join, you get access for free all these maps and tavern menus and things like that. You help support the project. But if you join as a member, you get the higher resolution versions of these maps that you can create, use for your VTT or print it up in person. But some of these maps are like 40 megabytes PNG file, 300 DPI, and you can really print those up. So if you're running this at a table, and I know a lot of dungeon masters out there are doing that.
Did you enjoy video? Consider tossing support on my Patreon. It's best way to support orcs. If you would like to see more content, subscribe and post comments below. It better not be bad.
Well, I hope you enjoy this town. If you have any comments about this town and the use of it in this campaign, please type down below or come to the Discord channel and talk about it there. I hope your players enjoy your campaign as much as mine have, and you have fun running your campaign.